Bro, how hard did Miyazaki hit the LSD for this one? What's up, guys? My name's Krispy. I have summoned the hounds of hell to my domain. I am pet sitting these beloved babies while my friend is away, and they shall be my bodyguards as I do the thing that is very ill-advised in the anime community, criticizing Hayao Miyazaki. Okay, I'm not criticizing him. I'm not throwing any shade. There's going to be some shade thrown his way. Miyazaki stands, don't hurt me. I love this guy just as much as you do. Please don't hurt me. So The Boy and the Heron follows a boy named Makito Maki. I think I'm pronouncing that name right if I remember it. It takes place during the Pacific War, and it involves Maki discovering an abandoned tower in his new hometown after his mom's death. And through this tower, he enters a fantastical world and comes across the titular talking gray heron. Does this movie have a star-studded cast in its English dub? Yes. Can I tell you how those performances were? No, I accidentally walked into the Japanese version of the movie for the IMAX showing, but I saw a Miyazaki movie in IMAX, so worth it, no regrets. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna see the English dub of this. I'm not gonna get into the whole sub versus dub argument, but sub is better, and if you think otherwise, your opinion's wrong. Nah. Tuko, buddy, what can we say about Miyazaki that hasn't been said before? Nothing. That's right. So Hayao Miyazaki, definitely one of my favorite filmmakers, quite possibly my favorite animator. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I love his work, from movies like My Neighbor Totoro to Princess Mononoke to Kiki's Delivery Service to one of my all-time favorite films, Spirited Away. And I think Tuko and I can agree here, nothing can be said about this guy that hasn't been said. Okay, so as I talk about this movie, I'm gonna really do my best to not give spoilers, because I think this film is best experienced through a very fresh lens, and I want to keep that lens as fresh as possible for you here on the fresh and fit floor beyond the sofa, because this is the best angle I could get the camera at. I'm not even sure if I should tell you right away whether I thought the movie was good or not. Let me just start with the experience of it, the feel of it. This movie is like the ultimate imaginative experience for anybody looking to see a movie this month. And this will probably make sense to anybody who's seen a Miyazaki film. This is definitely the most Miyazaki of any of his works as far as the animation goes, as far as the mood goes. The entire alternative world that Miyazaki creates in this movie is something else. So well animated, so thoroughly imaginative. And I know this is all just the amazing imagination of the master at work, but I really wonder what drugs, if any, this guy was on when he made the movie. This film goes crazy with its imagery. I mean, if you look at the heron alone, very unique looking bird. The way they animate him when he's still, when he's in flight, when he's walking, all amazing. And its teeth look beautiful while it's talking. Every piece of imagery here is so visceral, so detailed in every frame. And conceptually, they go apeshit. They have all these fantastical creatures that are like unimaginatively beastly and anthropomorphic by turns. They even play around with like a lot of blood and guts, surprisingly. And again, I wonder how much of this was Miyazaki going, okay team, let's get the game plan together, and I'm gonna do it myself, baby. Everything about it took me right back to Spirited Away, and I remember seeing Spirited Away as a kid and thinking that it was just the most otherworldly thing I had ever witnessed. I haven't seen any movie that's made me feel like that until this. That should tell you how much you're going to enjoy this film. But what I like about the experience overall, more than anything in the animation, more than anything we see any of these creatures, any of these characters do, is that it takes its time. Unlike so many other animated movies out there, Pixar's often been guilty of this, especially recently, I gotta say. It takes its time, it lets itself have silent moments where you take in the scenery, where you take in the magic of it all. And instead of throwing all of this world at you at once, it slowly brings you in. It's almost like it takes you on different levels that you have to play through and think through and experience your way through before you can get further and further into the meat of what the whole thing is about. This movie is an example of what I love about what Miyazaki does, and that is he shows that 2D animation still has a place in the world. I've got no beef with 3D animation at all, but there are things you can do with animation that you can't do with live action. And there are things you can do with 2D animation that not even 3D animation can accomplish. And this movie is not only an example of Miyazaki taking that to its logical extreme, it's an example of what anime itself in general can be. This whole movie is an example of why I love anime. It goes all out. It doesn't worry about playing it safe and going for just, your run-the-mill feel-good. It goes all out with everything it has to imagine, with everything it has to say. It's everything I love about Miyazaki and everything I love about anime put into one movie. Okay, not everything. I do have some gripes with this movie, but let me just assure you ahead of time, the gripes are double-edged swords. The plot of this film is kind of basic and formulaic, and honestly, it gets pretty easy to space out of the plot. It's not a special story. Frankly, it gets kind of boring at points, but it's still a good, decent story. With how all out they went with the animation and the world building and just the fantastical experience, they could have just had a bare bones plot here for all of us to have on the side while we enjoy the animation. The story, even if it's not the strongest Miyazaki's ever done, does add something to the movie, and I'm gonna get into that as I go a little further into this. For one example of what I'm talking about here, let me talk about the main character. Miyazaki has given us a lot of very memorable main characters, and unfortunately, Maki's not really one of them. He's very one note, he's very stoic, but even then, they make it clear why he is this way. He lost his mom at an earlier age than any child should because of a war that he did not ask for, that was brought onto his doorstep through something that he just had no control over. This is a kid who has had his innocence just ripped away from him. He has seen the darkest, worst side of humanity and the world at a very young age, and everything about his personality and his actions in this movie really shows that. But at the same time, he's trying to hold on to hope. And he's found a way to do that by helping this world and these characters that he's come to care for. Does it make for one of Miyazaki's better characters? No. Does it make for one of the better characters we've gotten in animation or cinema? Absolutely not. But he's good enough. He does the job that he's supposed to do in a way that adds to the movie. I've got no hate against him. I just don't find him that memorable compared to other characters I've seen. The main draw of the movie, again, is the animation and the feel of it and the experience. Like, that's the draw for most Miyazaki movies. And depending on whether you love Miyazaki or aren't a fan of him, you're gonna get more of that. And you're either gonna love it or you hate it. Personally, I love it. I'm a huge Miyazaki stan. I told you guys I wasn't going to critique him that much, but all of that adds together into what this movie ultimately is. It feels like a swan song. I know the whole deal, Miyazaki said this was going to be his last movie, and someone at Studio Ghibli said, oh, he was just kidding, there's going to be more. But, I think it's a win-win either way. If we get more work from Miyazaki, obviously that's great. If that's what he wants, if that's what he's down for, if he's not overworking himself, I'd love to see that. And who knows, a guy with his determination, he probably is willing to keep going. I can just imagine him saying it right now. Yeah, I want to retire, but I can't fucking stop. But if this is his last movie, I think it's the perfect note to go out on. Without giving too much away, part of the crux of the plot is Maki is trying to save this world. Without giving too much away, this alternate world he's wandering into is dying. It is in a state where it needs to be saved, otherwise it is going to literally catch fire. Maki is dealing with that. He is dealing with knowing that this is going to happen in his world one day, that it's going to happen to him one day. There are these prevailing themes in the movie of death, mortality, entropy, the passage of time. And it deals with that in a grim, no-holds-barred way, but also a way that's very poetic and very hopeful. And it reminds you that when you realize your time is not infinite, you see more of the beauty of the world. You want more and more to be a part of it, and keeping that in mind can make for a life that has so much beauty in it, no matter how bad things might seem at the time, said the privileged white guy. Hi, that's me. But going into this movie, knowing what I knew, it really did feel like the last work we might be getting from this guy, and I'm okay with that. This was probably the most vulnerable I have ever seen Miyazaki get. The most down to earth, the furthest he reached out to his audience. It feels like he's talking to you through this movie, asking you to remember him and his work and his legacy, whatever that might mean for you. And I think that everything in this movie, from the feel of it, from the experience of it, to the harsh but hopeful story, to the character who's had so much of his soul ripped out, but can still find hope in the darkest times, I feel like that makes for something beautiful that is so unlike anything I've seen from Miyazaki. If this really is his final work, I'd say it's one of the best final films I've ever seen. It's one of the best movies I've seen this year. I don't know if I'd say it's the best animated one. I don't know, Spider-Verse was really good. I know I'm beating a dead horse with another dead horse with a dead donkey here, like I'm dual wielding them. But I love that movie just as much as I did when I first saw it. And hey, it's got a contender now. Okay, before I go, ranking it next to the other Miyazaki movies. Gotta say, one of my favorites, definitely not my absolute favorite. I think I probably like Kiki's Delivery Service more. I definitely like Spirited Away more. I'm sorry, you're not topping that one for me. It definitely is on a comparable level to some of his other projects like My Neighbor Totoro and Princess Mononoke though. Overall, yeah, one of his better works, and that's saying something. So, goes without saying, I love this movie. I love it, I love it, I love it. Putting it in the Krispy meter, 90%, baby. To my fellow Miyazaki fans, if you love his work, it's got everything you love about a Miyazaki movie in it. You're gonna love it. To the surprisingly large number of people out there who don't like Miyazaki's work, or dare I say even hate it, you're just gonna find more of that here. Sorry, nothing new. But overall, these reviews are meant to be a conversation first and foremost. I would love to know down below, what did you think of this movie? If you have a favorite Miyazaki movie, I would love to know what it is. If you have a favorite animated movie, I would love to know what it is. Go ahead. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, please make sure to
like Tuco, share Tuco, and subscribe to Tuco, right? We gotta do that, right, Tuco?
And Millie's coming here to help me tell you this. We have an important message. I also have a Twitch, I have a gaming channel, and I have a clip channel as well. You can also find other projects that I have been a part of, including the Global Nerds podcast and Power Rangers Unworthy, as well as Power Rangers Psycho Menace down below. I always love having all of you here. Thank you as always for checking out my small little channel, and I hope you enjoy this. I really do. I love making this kind of content. This has been Krispy. And that's it. The Millie has spoken. I'm about to die. Take care.